Good evening. That's what it is here for me. We just got back from Black Hills, and I've got a lot of things to update you on the bus and on the trip, and I'm really sorry we didn't really record any of it or anything like that. You know, I don't know if we're gonna turn into RV YouTubers or anything like that, but I thought it'd be a fun time to try it, but quickly it did not turn into that, and I want to tell you about it. So first, I figured I'd give you a quick tour of what we've updated in the bus. We worked like crazy this last 2 weeks. We knew we had this big trip out to the Black Hills. We had a family friend from Spain coming, and so we were gonna do this whole big trip. And so it was just work. I mean, I was doing like 12-hour days sometimes. I had a friend of mine working on the shower. I'm gonna show you that. It looks awesome. So anyway, everything seemed to take about 2 to 4 times as long as I hoped it would. I'd like to show you what we did inside the bus here, and then I want to talk about what happened in the Black Hills. So first thing I did was I started ripping out more of the vinyl stair tread out of here, because I thought, well, I'm gonna fix those before you leave. Yeah, that didn't happen. A friend of mine knows I have kind of severe, sometimes crippling ADD, but also sometimes it gives me hyper focus. This was not one of those times. We started putting in some vinyl plank flooring. I used some self-tapping machine screws. Eventually we're going to have some of this on the front here, and then we'll cover that with some metal trim maybe, because I think that'll hold up better, or make some wood trim, who knows. So then here's what we got going on up here. I don't even remember what's really changed, other than the floor. Putting that vinyl plank floor in there really is starting to complete it, you know. It's really starting to come together. If I can just finish up that wall out there, back there. Oh, just so much to keep doing. So, all the drawers are in there, of course. I think I showed everybody this. Our water works. That's the water pump. Sometimes it works really good, sometimes it doesn't. I'll show you the pump I'm using here in a little bit. One thing we did here that I really like is, I think that's the right way, yeah. We can use this for more counter space. This is basically just the cutout from that. And I use this for a cutting board. I don't care that it gets marked up. I think that gives it a little character, and whatever. It's a cutting board. It's supposed to look that way. We got our pantry in, and there's supposed to be a door here, but that's one of the many things that went wrong in the Black Hills. The door fell off. So we can cross that off the list of bad things to talk about. Oh, this is another thing. I'll hit a couple of the small things just to keep your appetite for disaster satisfied. At the first rest stop that we stopped at, my dog, for some reason, decided to jump on our table. And, of course, it collapsed. It's not made to support a 150-pound St. Bernard dog. So, it's good that I brought a lot of tools with. I actually had thought I was going to work on things. I didn't. So, you can see kind of how I have it supported down there. Just some oak there, and then a support piece on the back. Right. Wasn't a huge deal, but this was not something we were looking forward to doing during breakfast. Then, yeah, I don't think anything serious has changed with the bunk area. I think we've talked about many times. I want to do curtains here, and I do have it pre-wired now for lights. They even have a switch, but it doesn't go to anything. It would just turn that on. Those are not in yet. But we do have, this is probably our best pocket door here. like the way that one turned out. Oh, I was gonna pull the tools out of that before I showed you this. JL, I'm sorry, the floor looks awesome in there. But that's our tile shower. The grouting's not done, so obviously we did not use it. We just ran out of time. I think we need to wipe off some of the excess grout. For some trim on here, we actually used some composite trim around the edge here rather than tile. I think we just ran out of steam on what are we gonna do, so we did that. Who knows? I don't know if this will get done this week, next week, whenever. We also have, so then here's a pocket door here. That one's stuck. Yeah, this one. This one doesn't move that well. So if you can tell, the door is bowed pretty bad. I didn't pay attention, I guess, as much as I should have when I put it in. So it scrapes pretty good. And then this door also has similar problems. See how much room there is there, and there's not much room at the bottom. These pieces here bow out. So this one actually, it rolls. This one rolls too well, and that leads to some other problems. But we finally have that nice thing where we can close ours. What happened here? So we can close off bathroom and shower to our room, which is nice in the middle of the night. You know, don't always have to hear the kids getting up to use the bathroom and all that. Then, yeah, the bathroom. Actually, the bathroom, this is one of the things that worked really, really well. And I don't know hardly anything about plumbing, but it worked pretty well. I think I had 4 hours allotted in my budget to make this bathroom cabinet. I think it took me about 16, but it's pretty cool. I picked this, the sink itself up at the Habitat for Humanity Restore for like $15. And then we bought separate hardware and plumbed it all up and everything. Probably tough to see down there, but no cabinet doors on any of that. No time for that. And then of course we're basically sitting over the back wheels right now, so we can't run plumbing straight down into the floor, so we had to run it along the side and down. That's where the tank is. And likewise over here we had to do the same thing, but just with the water feed lines. That's why there's this little shelf here, but we're going to repurpose this into something to hold shampoos and whatnot. So we've got some fine tuning to do here, you know, put a mirror up and that sort of stuff, but this worked great. So here's the view from the bunk area up front. Got the cabinets up front to do yet, things to work on there, doors on all the front cabinets, stuff like that. Here's something that worked really, really well was, I know it's not fancy coffee, but having just a simple coffee pot here. I could plug it in right here, and my wife got these non-slip things. They work really well, and I was able to make some coffee. We had at least one air conditioner, sometimes two running, and of course, and then still plenty of power here. We never had any issues with the power running. 2 air conditioners and the coffee pot, and I used about 1,000 watts. It all worked just fine. It's real good. So let me go show you the outside water bay quick. I think that's the last thing to update you on. So here's the water bay. I realize now that my city water in is awfully close to my dump valve. I probably should have put that over on that other leg, but I don't know, I wasn't thinking. There's the water pump I'm using. What's nice here is with these two things, I can sort of switch to city water. I just turn that one off. The pump's still on, it stays pressurized, it doesn't care. and then I turn this one on, and then water will come in. And that worked really good at the campground. And then I got all my on and offs here for shower, bathroom, kitchen, and then hot water is the other one, and then hot water comes back in from the other side to go to shower, bathroom, kitchen. And eventually I think we might do an outdoor shower, for sure an outdoor kitchen on the other side, but we're not there yet. So I may do a divider here, just to kind of divide this space a little bit more, or rework the city water in more over here, just to keep that as sanitary as I can. We did one dump and it worked fine. You can see there's some stuff in there. Where's our freshwater? Our freshwater tank's doing pretty well. Hey girl, how'd you do? Actually, it wasn't that bad. We had a couple of nights there. One night it got down into the 60s. Coco had a good time. Oh, yes, she did. Yes, she did. Yeah, who liked the Black Hills, huh? Yeah, Coco did. All right, so now it's time to bleed. We'll go inside, talk about everything that happened. All right, so what went wrong? It didn't take long for the first thing to go wrong, and I'll show it to you. That right there. This is my positive terminal from the coach batteries to the house batteries. That's not going to work out so well now, is it? We made it about a half mile out. We had hoped to leave, I think, by 8 or 9, and then kind of a stretch goal of 10 p.m. And I think that happened at about 11 as we were rolling out, and all of a sudden everything shut down. Not everything in the bus, or not the bus systems, but the house systems here. So the power went out, the air conditioners went out because it was still pretty hot. Battery cable was the first thing that went bad. So we came back here, fixed it, and I didn't actually have any more terminals. Let me show you what I used to fix it with. I think I have. So it's midnight. We need to get on the road. I don't have any more of these ends, but as you can tell, this end didn't really work out all that well. I do crimp and solder these usually, but the way this failed was it corroded here actually, and it wasn't getting a good connection. So the connector heated up the wire. When the wire heats up, it does not conduct current very well, and then just destroys itself. But what I did was I had some 1/2-inch copper tube left over from a DIY pool heater using a campfire from a year or two ago, and I was like, So I put one end in a vise, left the other end open, then just drilled the hole in this end on the other one and sanded that smooth to expose the copper underneath, and that worked really well. On we went, and we made it all the way to our first rest stop near Sioux Falls, and then that morning the dog broke the table, and we thought, and at that time I was thinking, okay, this is the worst it's gonna get. This is the worst. You can't really get much worse than this, I guess. So we keep going, and on the way we're gonna stop at Wall Drug, the drugstore, and every once in a while, the temperatures, they should be, the top end of normal is about 180. Or not the top end of normal. That's normal. The top end of normal is like 190. You start getting over 190 on your temps, you really need to be thinking about what you're doing. Now we are pulling our van, so that means it's putting more stress on the engine, and we're kind of going uphill. We're at the Black Hills, so you keep going up. We keep going up these up and down hills, and it's really hard trying to maintain speed. I'm almost using the downhills to coast and cool the engine off. At the time, what I didn't really realize is I needed to downshift when you're going down a hill to keep the engine RPMs up, because when you keep the engine RPMs up, the blowers that cool the radiators are moving faster and moving more air. That was the mistake I made. So my temperatures were starting to climb a little bit, but I thought they were okay. I thought I was keeping it under control. And a couple of times where the shutdown it started to shut down just a little bit, and you can hit the master switch override, you know, to move over to the side of the road safely or whatever, and then it went off. It cooled itself down just enough. So we kept going. We made it into the wall drug, and I did a little research and stuff. Cleaned out my radiators a little bit while everyone else was shopping, and thought I had it mostly sorted out. Some we pull into Rapid City. Again, we're towing the van on a tow dolly. I don't know how heavy it is, but you know, it's probably at least another 3,000–4,000 pounds that we're towing, and there's some pretty steep grades going up. I want to say there's one, I found out later, it was 3 miles, 6% grade, and I think we made it most of the way up, but then the over-temp shutdown system went on, and it went on hard. And thankfully it did. Some people turn those systems off in these buses because they want to control when they kind of when they pull over to the side of the road. I'm a little bit more of a novice driver, so I could have really cooked my engine. I mean, it's possible that I've damaged it. Anytime you turn the engine over, you're damaging it a little bit. It's a consumable. But I may have probably shortened its life some. But it's not horrible. We made it back, obviously. Still pulling the van. But what we did do, actually not right away, but what we should have done at that point, we should not have even bothered trying to pull the van up that hill. I don't know what I was thinking. But eventually, after a couple more hills, we pulled over, unhooked the toad, and at that point in my life, I wasn't sure if I had just cooked our engine or not. I was kind of starting to lose it a little bit, and I'm usually pretty stable. Just kind of quietly crying to myself kind of a thing. I'm not really crying, but, just like, oh God, what did I do? What did I just do? Did I just flush a year and a half worth of work, a lot of money, everything, and, is it gone? That was what was going through my mind. And thankfully we unhooked the van, and it all worked. It seemed like power was back. You just don't realize how much load and effort is put on these vehicles when you're going up these steep grades, especially when you're starting from zero. Starting out on an incline of 6% or somewhere 10%, I think, and there are these twisty, windy roads. It's beautiful up there, but let me tell you, this bus does not like it. By itself, actually, it did pretty well. We made it all the way to the KOA campground at Rushmore. It was beautiful there, so we made it. And at that point, I was feeling a little bit better about things, and I thought to myself, okay, the safety systems worked as they are intended to. I had my infrared gun out there, and it was showing temps of like 110, 115 at the housing, and the housing for the thermostat, the temperature sending units. The only thing I'll add is, to me, it seemed like it went from kind of normal to maybe a little bit high temp to, oh my gosh, over temp real quick. And two things. One, it plays into another issue we had that I'll get to. But two, when you're driving a bus like this, your temperature gauge is delayed, I would say, between 10 to 15 seconds. It's telling you what happened. It's not telling you what is happening right now, because the water has to flow from the engine to the sending unit. So it's not always instant, and you could be, overheating, continuing to build heat. So it's always kind of be cautious. That's what I'm trying to say, because I wasn't. I try to be. So, but there was something else that happened, but I want to get to that. I got a list here. So once we were there at the campground, I noticed, it wasn't a big deal because we had good 30 amp service, but I noticed two of my solar panels weren't working, or I have them split, 4 panels on one charge controller, 2 panels on another charge controller, because I plan on adding 2 more, so it's going to be 4 and 4. But I was not getting anything. So I went and I tightened the screws on the Blue Solar charge controller, and that seemed to bring it back, but it didn't seem to last very long. So I don't know if something's going on with the charge controller, or I've got some bad MC4 connectors, or what. I plan on investigating that this weekend, this week, because we are going out again next week. But it's nice having, you know, almost 2,000 watts up there, because we still had plenty of power to keep things charged up while we were boondocking at rest stops and whatnot. So that was the other thing that went wrong. Then the other thing that I think this was the precursor to my overheating, or why I didn't notice the engine overheating when it was. We had a problem with our gauges. There was a wire in the door panel. I'll show it to you after I explain what happened, but basically a wire broke and it caused my gauges to no longer work. It caused the door lock to no longer work. None of the safety systems worked. Nothing. I could start the bus and I could move it, but no brake lights, no door lock, no oil pressure sensor, oil pressure gauge, no temp gauge. Speedometer works because that works differently. That's more of like a direct sensor. And the air pressure gauge worked too, because that's a direct sensor as well, I believe. But I was sitting on the side of the road for about 3 hours trying to figure that out. We were coming back. This was last night. You know, I'm talking to my wife, like, I don't know what we're gonna do. You know, we're gonna spend the night here on an off ramp, I guess. I had a bunch of people on the bus conversion forum were trying to help me out, offer suggestions, and thank you. If any of you guys are watching this, you guys rock, thank you. But I was just pouring over the service manuals, trying to follow all the wiring diagrams, trying to figure out what was what, but really it just turned out to be kind of dumb luck, and finding a wire that looked like it should be still connected and it wasn't. And I took a chance on connecting it, and everything came back to life. So that was a sigh of relief, but that came at about 10, 11 o'clock at night, so I drove another 3-4 hours till 3 in the morning until Sioux Falls, and then we finished the trip this morning back home. So we made it. It was eventful. It was very eventful, but I think we've worked out some of the kinks out of here. I do have some ideas to address heating issues, because, you know, the temps were not abnormal. They weren't like in the hundreds. They were high 80s, 90s. But I think there are some things we can do to address that, and I'll be working on those this week, actually, one of them, and I'll have some videos on that or something. But let me go show you that driver panel, and then we'll wrap up, because it's getting long. So all over this bus there are panels like this that you can open up, and they just require a flathead screwdriver or a coin, and you can open them up. And this one's nice enough to even have a little kickstand. So it stays open like that. This is sitting lower than I remember, so there's a couple more here. Now I checked all these relays. I was thinking maybe one of those might be out. Was not it. So I started digging around in here. And what's nice is they also usually have these diagrams, kind of tell you what's what. But there I was on the side of the road on I-90, looking at that, trying to figure out what isn't working that should be working. And what it ended up being is this one right here. That was the connection I made. And I also wrapped a bunch of these wires with red electrical tape because something had gotten in there and actually chewed away the insulation at them. The wires were still fine. I plan on probably replacing those here soon. So that was the deal there. I hooked that up and everything came back to life. So that must have just broke slowly, you know, over, you know, it's not going to break on the first bump, second bump, but after a million little bumps and that 35-year-old wiring, stuff happens, you know. So button that back up.